Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and this week's tip has to do with fair housing laws and showing property. And I just want to discuss this a little bit and give you a couple of tips on how to avoid any fair housing allegations. From a broker's perspective, some things you can do as an agent, and there are state fair housing laws. Now, who must adhere to fair housing laws? Well, the answer is you as a licensed real estate agent, as well as the public. Again, these are federal and state laws. There are also real estate license laws that address fair housing violations, but the federal and state laws are laws for everybody, regardless of what profession that you practice. But if you are a real estate agent, a property manager, a community association manager, a seller, a buyer, a landlord, a tenant, an investor, so forth and so on, then you must adhere to the fair housing laws. Now, in addition to the laws in general, on the GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors contract, as well as the RE forms contract, there is also a paragraph regarding adherence to fair housing laws as an admonition or reminder to our sellers and our buyers. And I just, as an agent, whether you are a listing agent or a selling agent, make sure to go over that information with your clients and customers as well. So, what are the 7 federally protected groups under fair housing laws? They are familial status, race, sex, not as a verb, but as a meaning in gender, handicap or disability, color, religion, and national origin. So what's an easy way to remember that? The easiest way to remember is remember the moniker, or the mnemonic actually, fresh corn. There is no E and there is no O, but you can remember that because E and O stands for equal opportunity housing. So again, familial status for the F, race for the R, there is no E, so that you're going to remember that as equal. For fresh corn, F-R-E-S, sex or gender. H is handicap or disability. C is color. O, there is no O, but again, E-O, equal opportunity. Corn, C-O-R, R is religion, and N is national origin. So that's the easiest way to remember those. Now, if you are a realtor and you subscribe to the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics, to which you must adhere, you will also know that sexual orientation is an additional protection for realtors. And in the state of Georgia, if you are writing a contract under the GAR purchase and sale agreement or the RE forms contract for the purchase of real property in Georgia, those contracts themselves also state sexual orientation as a protected class, so to speak, under which you cannot violate for basically for fair housing issues. So what do you do as an agent to protect yourself? And this has to do with selling real property as well as rental property. And there are people out there that know a lot of the fair housing laws way better than a lot of other people. And unfortunately, there are some people that tend to use the laws out there as a means of grounds for a lawsuit just to make money on that rather than, well, I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, so what can you do as an agent to protect yourself from any fair housing allegations or allegations that you have violated any fair housing laws? Well, one thing you can do, especially if you are a listing agent, but this would be a good practice for any agent interacting with the public. You need to have a standard of practice for yourself, and you need to be consistent with every client or customer with whom you interact. And what I mean by that is, if you are, well, let's start with the listing side. If you get a sign call and there is a member of the public that wants to see a listing that you have, and what you should do is you should have a standard of practice that together, you as the licensed real estate agent as well as your seller, you agree upon when you are engaging that seller to sign a listing agreement. And the standard of practice would be that for any sign call, for any unrepresented buyer, you are going to require some sort of information prior to showing that house. And what I mean by that is you are going to require either a pre-approval letter or notice source of funds letter or a copy of a driver's license or whatever. Especially for the seller, that's probably a good idea to find out if they have already spoken with a lender prior to letting a stranger, meeting a quote-unquote stranger, a potential buyer at a house. And if that buyer is in the market to purchase a home, they should have already met with a lender to begin with. If they are not working with an agent already, then that is a great opportunity for you as the agent to have the discussion with them about everything that is involved with purchasing a home on today's market. If they're working with an agent, if they're already working with an agent, then again, you would just do whatever you normally do when cooperating with another agent who has a buyer that wants to see your listing. But the key is to be extremely consistent. If you're going to have a procedure for showing your listing to an unrepresented potential buyer, you must be consistent. What you cannot do is you cannot on one potential buyer ask for a pre-approval, pre-qualification, or proof of funds and not ask it consistently on every potential sign call. That's where you are going to get in trouble, and that is where you are potentially in violation of these federal fair housing laws, where it is, and again, they are license laws also in the state of Georgia. You cannot refuse to show property, sell property to, finance, anything along those lines to somebody based on those 7 federally protected groups. And those are the same groups that are protected in the state of Georgia as well. So again, you need to protect yourself and have a consistent means of procedures and means of operation and methodology when working with sellers and showing an unrepresented potential buyer that listing. Same thing when you are working with a buyer. Definitely before you do anything, you're going to want to make sure that they have had a conversation with a lender if they are getting financed. And you are going to want to, if they're not getting financed, if they are a cash buyer, you are, as the agent, before you take them out to see property, you are going to want some sort of proof of funds so that, number one, you're not wasting your time, and number two, you are showing that buyer the appropriate properties for which they are going to buy in terms of price, area, location, so forth and so on. So again, even as a selling agent, you definitely want to be consistent in your procedure. If you're asking for, again, pre-approval, pre-qualification, getting them connected with a lender that you know, love, and trust, and asking for a driver's license or something along those lines. There are a lot of safety protection for you as well. Just in general, you are in a stranger business. If you are prospecting and meeting strangers, you need to protect yourself. No one commission is worth your safety, your life, your health, injuries, anything along those lines. But again, regarding the topic of today's video and fair housing issues and fair housing laws, the key is to be able to have a consistent procedure every time you have a listing and you're going to show an unrepresented buyer, and every time you are working with a buyer before you engage that person as a client or as a customer. And the key is also to be able to document your procedures, your methodology of work, and be consistent across how you work. And again, I would put it in the buyer brokerage agreement, customer acknowledgement agreement, listing agreement, authorization to show unlisted property, anything and everything that you do. If you have a pre-listing kit, if you have a pre-buyer kit, or any kind of literature and information that you do give a potential customer or client prior to working with them as a professional, you are going to want to have this information and these procedures well laid out and well documented. And again, it is for your protection, it is for your buyers and sellers protection, and it is for the good of fair housing and the good of our industry. Thank you so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education.